From Rudy's on the Circle in Waco, welcome into our Baylor Coaches Show this week. We're glad you are with us. Glad to be here at Rudy's. Thanks to everyone that is here in person. Thanks to those of you that are tuned in either on radio or television. And we appreciate you being with us as we talk Baylor athletics over the next hour. Specifically, we will talk Baylor equestrian. Coach Casie Maxwell is our first guest tonight. And then bottom of the hour, we'll turn the focus to Baylor men's basketball. Coach Scott Drew will be with us this evening, the second half hour of the show. And how about Baylor basketball? Very timely. The big win over Kansas State last night in the Farrell Center keeps Baylor undefeated on the season at 15-0, 8-0 in Big 12 conference play, and number 2 in the nation. So Coach Drew to come, but we begin tonight with Casie Maxwell, Baylor equestrian, number 9 in the nation, and they are opening their spring schedule this weekend at Texas A&M. And we welcome in Coach Casie Maxwell. It is good to see you, even via Zoom. And Happy New Year. I guess we're at the end of January, but we haven't seen each other face to face. So Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. It's really good to be here.
Appreciate it. And you're getting busy. Y'all are getting going this weekend, headed down to Texas A&M.
We are. Feels like it's been a long time, but we are finally going to kick things off, and we'll be a lot of weekends back to back, but we're ready to get at it.
Very good. It has been a long time. I mean, looking at your schedule, it's been 10 months since y'all had a competition. That's wild to think about.
Yeah, it's weird. The last time we were in the arena was March 7th, and remember it vividly because we let the team go for spring break, and they never came back. And so we're definitely excited and anxious to get back in there, and I know they're ready to put this hard work back into play. Not to rehash,
that time, but what was that like when you had, when everybody left for spring break? You thought you'd get them back the next week and keep going. Like you said, they never came back. What was that like?
I think the hardest thing, I remember kind of giving them a mom talk when they left from the March 7th meet. We played Oklahoma State. It was senior day, and I brought them in and truly gave them a mom talk, and we wanted to know where all they were going to be and, what their travel dates were, because that's when the coronavirus had just kind of started coming on, and I tried to kind of put some fear into them to be very careful on their spring break and make sure they stayed safe. And it was a lot of rolling eyes and nodding heads. And, now we look back and we laugh about it and they say, Coach, we just really didn't take you seriously. But, we know now that we should have taken it more seriously. I think the hardest thing for us was that we had to tell them our season was over via email, via Zoom, things like that. We never got to have them back and kind of have some closure. And so that was definitely the hardest thing for us. But we adapted. They adapted great. They finished strong academically. They came back hungrier than ever. And so, everybody went through the same thing. We can't feel bad for ourselves about it. And they made the most of that time.
Yeah, such a weird time, especially when you can't have that closure. You can't have a team meeting, get everybody together and explain it, and just exchange ideas. That's tough, isn't it?
It is. It was really tough. And we had quite a few athletes who even stayed in Waco who didn't go anywhere, wanted to come out and having facilities closed and they couldn't come out and get their stuff, or couldn't, come out and ride anymore. It's like you're right down the road. And it's just really pretty surreal that you can't even see them and you kind of go on a full lockdown like that. So definitely was a tough time for everyone.
Casie, let's remind everyone, or maybe tell them if they don't know, you've really got the second largest roster of any sport on campus behind only football. What's the number? 61? Do you have 61 student athletes?
We are 63 this year. Yeah, we try to stay right around the 65 mark. Okay. We're a little lower this year because of COVID, and we had a couple of recruits who deferred a year who will join us in 21. And so that worked out quite well. But yeah, it's a large number.
It is. And I know you're used to it because it's your sport. But what are the challenges associated with, corralling that big a number over Zoom when you had to do that, and then getting them back and getting them back going here on campus?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, Zoom now, and you sit there and everyone's on mute and no one answers you versus being in a room. So it's definitely been hard, and we've had to be creative and trying to get them interactive with us and stuff like that. But we've gotten used to managing the numbers. That hasn't changed too much because of coronavirus. They know now the need, little things like the need for them all to kind of arrive around the same time in August to kind of get into the same testing pool and things like that, rather than kind of stagger in like they were used to in previous years. we've just had to make little adjustments like that, but they've been great. They've been really compliant. They understand. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get us into practice and get us into competition.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. That's a common theme. It seems like all our student athletes, all the sports here at Baylor, you know, they're doing whatever they have to be able to stay and compete.
Yeah, they're really, I mean, we talk about it all the time. And like I said, it's not a Baylor problem. It's not even a Texas problem. It's a national problem. We're all going through the same thing right now. And so they really are really great about, you know, making the necessary steps, making the sacrifices that they need to make, and knowing that it's just not normal. It looks completely different than it usually does, but we're getting to do something. So we know that it could be worse. You know, we kind of talk about that all the time, that it could be worse. We could have not gotten to practice in the fall, or could not be playing this spring. And so let's be grateful for what we have.
Yeah, amen to that. You were telling me, it's kind of interesting. You have no or very few COVID cases right now, but you're battling the flu on your team.
Yeah,
in a normal year, that'd be a serious issue. But this year, flu kind of takes a back seat, doesn't it?
Right. We're just grateful they're only out for maybe a couple of days versus 10 to 14. And so,
right.
And they don't have all these direct contacts with them, you know, the new lingo that we're also familiar with using. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've been really healthy. We've had a little onset of COVID cases or direct contact cases as we brought them back. And that's been pretty typical across the board. But we went through the whole fall semester, knock on wood, really smooth. After they had reported in August, we really went the entire semester with no cases. And so we're really hopeful we can do that again this spring. We know we have the added risk of traveling. And so, but they're willing to hunker down and just kind of be in our bubble, as everyone keeps talking about, and make the sacrifices that they need to.
How about you and your family and your kiddos? Everybody okay there?
Everybody's good. Everybody's good. My kids have adapted great. They've managed to go to school, which has been great, and have adapted to face masks and everything they need to, but everybody's been healthy. Everybody's been good. They're ready for a vacation whenever this is all lets up a little bit, and I will relax a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. All right. We're off and running on tonight's Baylor Coaches Show. We're visiting with Casie Maxwell, Baylor equestrian coach. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more in just a moment. And thanks to Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. We'll be back on the Baylor Coaches Show right after this. Continuing on the Baylor Coaches Show with Casie Maxwell, Baylor equestrian coach. Casie, we appreciate you being with us this evening. And as we mentioned, you've got a competition coming up this weekend, first of the spring, headed down to College Station. Your team, by the way, ranked number 9 in the NCEA team rankings. A&M, I think, number 7. Is that right?
Yes.
Number 7. So jumping right in here in the spring, tell us about what we're looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, we've got a really tough spring schedule. I mean, it doesn't start off easy at all. We don't get to transition into it at all like we might get to in a normal year. And so starting on the road is tough, starting on the road against a really tough team and a team who got to play a couple meets. The SEC got to play a couple meets in the spring. So they've got a little bit of leeway on us. But, you know, we're feeling really good. We're feeling really, really strong. We've got a lot of depth to our roster. We added some really great freshmen and then have a lot of depth in our returners. And this team's just really hungry to get back in the arena, as I'm sure everyone is, but they practiced really hard, a really rigorous practice schedule in the fall semester and are ready to just put all that to work.
Very good. It is a tough schedule. You're talking about that. You got 7 meets against 5 different opponents, including number 2, Oklahoma State, number 5, SMU, number 6, Fresno State, number 7, Texas A&M, and number 8, TCU. That's a tough schedule.
Very tough. And a lot on the road. We only play twice at home. And so, you know, we're really going to put our team out there and put them to the test. Definitely not protecting them at all as we go about this spring semester. We know it will be very challenging. I think we also think that this is the team that's got the ability to do it. We definitely have the depth. We definitely have the right mindset. The talent. And so they do have the ability to go out and do it. We're just going to have to take it week by week. But, you know, they're ready to go. I'm super excited to see what they can do this spring semester.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when your season was cut short last year, 10 months ago, you were on an upward trend, weren't you? You were feeling good about the direction the team was going at that point.
We were. And ironically, our spring schedule in spring of 2020 was very similar to what it is right now. It wasn't quite 7 meets, but we went 5 weeks back to back. We had kind of intentionally put that there in spring of 2020 to prepare our team for the postseason. We wanted it to be challenging. We wanted it to be back to back, kind of create a better mindset, some more mental toughness. And they were really on an uphill climb. We had some really close scores. Away on the road, Texas A&M was one of them, you know, really kind of held our ground against some of those tough opponents. And we felt like things were really going to come full circle for us in the postseason. You'll never know, obviously, but we really felt like our team was going to be peaking at the right time. They were confident. They had a lot of mental toughness. They had the ability to really bounce back if we did come off of a loss and fight for the next one. And so we're hoping to kind of carry some of that preparation, some of that mindset from spring of 2020 that our returners got to go through into this spring. We feel like it kind of prepared them a little bit for what we're going to have to do with this COVID schedule.
Yeah, very good. And remind everybody, or tell everybody your home meets February 6th at home against number 8 TCU, February 20th at home against number 2 Oklahoma State. And you're hosting the Big 12 championships this year, late March. That'll be fun.
We are. We were supposed to have that opportunity in spring of 2020, but that got cut out of our schedule. So we're really grateful that it gets to come back here in Waco and that this team will be able to have that opportunity. If it had gone back into the rotation, our seniors would have never had the opportunity to host it. So we're really grateful to get to do that. That's
cool. That's great. That's March 26th through the 27th. And then the NCEA National Championships right back in Waco in mid-April.
Yes. Always a great way to end the season. So we're excited. I mean, it's on a neutral facility, but it's home for us. So we don't have to go too far. And we get to take a lot of our team there and take a lot of our horses there. So we're definitely excited to have it back here in Waco.
Very good. Hey, this may be a crazy question, but talking about your horses, you know, important part of your team. During all that COVID time, facilities were closed for the most part. Who had access? How'd you take care of the horses during all that time?
So that's a great question. We have a full-time barn manager who lives here on the property, and we keep a couple of students or part-time workers who help him. And we got to keep those folks employed. Obviously, the horses still have to eat 365 days a year and get taken care of. And so unlike most sports that could turn off the lights and lock the door and save a lot of costs, we still had some costs during COVID just to maintain them. But it was definitely at a minimum. Just really what they needed. And then our coaches still had access to the facility to exercise, medically treat horses, you know, things like that. and just kind of sustain them during that time. So it was a little bit different than a lot of other sports on campuses, but they still needed us.
Yeah, and had to be different for the horses too. I mean, they're used to being, ridden. They're treated like kings and queens around here. But there wasn't much. I mean, it was really social distancing from the horses for the most part.
It was. And I mean, they are always looking forward to the summer and grateful when the students leave for a little while, but that extended period of time, they honestly get kind of bored. They start messing with each other and kind of fighting in the pastures, and making bad choices, as we say. But, we definitely saw they got a little bit bored, but they worked so hard. They definitely deserve the extended time off. And they got all the same care that they would normally get if we were competing, in terms of farrier and medical care and things like that. They just weren't ridden to the same extent. We exercised the ones that we needed to. And so they definitely enjoyed the longer break. Probably the downside of it was that it took longer for us to get them back into shape and reacclimated in the fall semester before we started practicing. You're normally just bringing them back after a 3-month summer break, and bringing them back after a 7 to 8 month break for some of them was pretty extended. And so we had to be pretty cautious as how we acclimated them to get them ready for the season.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Hey, we kind of skimmed over this, but part of your schedule, you'll match up with Fresno State. And in equestrian, Fresno State is a member of the Big 12. Explain that to everybody.
They are. So they are an affiliate member of the Big 12 Conference. That started last year in 2019, 2020. And so typically for our Big 12 play, we will always play home and away with every opponent. And that's what we did last year for the 2019-2020 season, even with Fresno State. This year, us at Baylor, TCU, and OSU are not going to be able to fly out to California, just with all the COVID regulations going on. So our schedule looks a little bit different this year, in that all three of us are playing Fresno State at a neutral location. So we will play Fresno State at TCU. They will host it. They will run the event. And then that same weekend, we will host Fresno State versus Oklahoma State at a neutral location. And so it's not a perfect scenario. We definitely prefer to all be playing each other equally and home and away and in each other's home arenas. But I don't think anyone's schedule is normal with COVID right now. So we're just taking anything that we can get. And we're grateful that they can travel out here as often as they need to be able to get in all those neutral meets.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's great. All right, stay with us. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more in just a moment. You're tuned in to the Baylor Coaches Show. We're visiting with Coach Casie Maxwell, Baylor Equestrian, and we'll be right back after this. Back on this evening's Baylor Coaches Show, we're visiting with Casie Maxwell, Baylor equestrian coach. Want to give you our Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics health tip for the week. Now you can experience better care without leaving home. Schedule an appointment anytime and get the care you need by video chat, phone, or text. Learn more at bswhealth.com/COVID-19. And one final segment with Coach Casie Maxwell. Coach Scott Drew, Baylor basketball, will join us bottom of the hour. Tell us about your team. You said 63 student athletes on your team. That is a large number. What's the makeup? It seems like it's pretty well divided between the classes of your 63 student athletes.
It is. I would say we do have a pretty large senior class this year. We've got 19 who will be graduating out of this year. And we had a little bit of a smaller freshman class come in because we had a couple of student athletes defer until the 21-22 season. But overall, I mean, it's not too off balance in terms of our classes. We brought back a lot of depth in our returners. We only graduated 4 who were competitors for us and who were consistently on the starting lineup. And we replaced them and more with some folks in our freshman class. And we're also going to see some of our returners really step into some starter positions this year. So we're really excited about kind of what the makeup looks like competitively.
Very good. Some names people may recognize. Rachel Davis, I think, is back. Madison Day is back. Who are some others, that you're really counting on? Some of your veterans that are back.
Yeah, so Madison actually graduated last year. She was one of the ones we lost, but okay. Rachel is back. She's a senior this year. Gia Gelino on the jumping seat side, they'll be back for us, both strong competitors for us. And then on the Western side, we've got Madeline Calloway and Maggie Sincata, both back in the reining. Casie Scharf and Clara Johnson, Katie Davis back in the horsemanship. Those are some of our kind of upperclassmen returners who have got a generous amount of experience and we'll really be looking to lead us in the right direction this spring.
Very good. Is there a strength of your team, one side or the other, or I'm sure you try to be balanced as you can?
Definitely important for us to be balanced. And it's hard to tell right now because we haven't played for so long. And I think we're going to have some new starters, both from returners and freshmen in all 4 of our events this year. So it's kind of hard to tell if we're stronger in one place than in another. But our focus is always to be as equal as we possibly can, because in order for us to pull out a win on competition day, all 4 of those events really have to be performing at their best. You really can't afford to have one to be making up the ground of one event being really weak.
And remind everybody about your staff. You got a really good staff, and want to give them a shout out.
I do. I have a great staff. I'm excited. We've kind of really found our momentum. Our jumping seat coach, assistant coach Marlena Beckham's back with me for year 3. My assistant Western coach, Abby Daimler, former Baylor rider for us. She's back with me for year 2. She coaches our horsemanship squad. And then we've hired a new director of ops, Blaine Pomfret. She's joined us just this year. So she's finally kind of getting into the real part of her job with COVID.
Right.
We didn't do too much in the fall. She's actually kind of coming full circle and getting to get to work this spring semester.
Yeah, that's great. So Baylor A&M starting out, that's big among your staff, right? When Baylor takes on A&M.
Yes, Coach Marlena and I are both A&M graduates,
right.
So there's always a little jostling right there whenever we go back. So that's always fun and it's a good motivator for our team, and definitely a hard one to start with, but we're really excited about it.
And that is Saturday. It's all day on Saturday.
Saturday starts at 11 a.m.
Okay.
They will run 2 arenas. It is open to the public. They do have enough seating capacity that they do not have to limit for equestrian events. And so 11 a.m. start time, they'll start with fences and horsemanship, and then they'll go with flat and reining as soon as those events are finished.
What do you think, or has it been determined yet, the crowds might be able to be for your home meets this year?
That's a great question. Not 100% confirmed yet, but we are planning to have some kind of fan, parent, guest capacity. What we're probably looking at is a player pass list situation or a guest pass list situation rather than just having the events open to the public, because there will be a limit on it. But as long as we're able to run 2 arenas, which the weather's good and we can do that works great anyways, then we expect to be able to have some kind of number of fans. If we do have bad weather that forces us to run all indoors, we probably will close the gates and not have any fans, just because we won't be able to socially distance the teams as we need to.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Final thought, I drive by your place, pretty much every day down to University Parks Drive. Love looking over there and seeing it. It's a really good facility. I mean, it's very functional for you, isn't it?
It is. We are so blessed. We are so blessed to be within 2 miles of campus and have all the space that we have for our horses, for them to be happy. A lot of times when you're this close to campus, then they do not have the pasture space or the area to roam. And so we get the benefit to having such great ease of access for our student athletes, and then having a great place for our horses. And so it is so functional. It's great. It's a huge space. We can get a lot of people in here in a normal year when we don't have COVID restrictions. Yeah. And so we do feel extremely blessed.
Very good. Well, it's always great to see you. It's always great to visit. Good luck this weekend at A&M, and good luck getting a really challenging schedule underway here in the spring.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. That's Casie Maxwell, Baylor equestrian coach. And again, they open the spring schedule at Texas A&M this Saturday. That is number 9 Baylor versus number 7 Texas A&M. 11 a.m. start time on Saturday. All right, stay with us. Our Baylor Coaches Show continues. When we come back, Coach Scott Drew will join us. We'll talk Baylor basketball. Baylor basketball, number 2 in the nation, undefeated on the year. A big win last night over Kansas State. That and more when we come back on the Baylor Coaches Show. Thanks again to Rudy's. Rudy's our host for the Baylor Coaches Show. Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. And we'll be right back after this.
And welcome back on our Baylor Coaches Show live at Rudy's. And join me in welcoming Baylor men's basketball coach Scott Drew with us here at Rudy's this evening. Coach, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Isn't it nice to be out somewhere? You know, we can actually be here at Rudy's.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So congratulations on the win last night. Very timely. Great win. Boy, y'all came out of the gates really strong last night.
Well, that was one thing we wanted to do was really start fast, and then that way K-State does such a great job, and Coach Weber in controlling tempo, and if we could get some separation, then speed the game up, and we were able to do that.
I didn't know about this last night. I didn't know about it till today, but K-State, I mean, that was a rough trip for them. with the bus issue? Didn't they have a bus issue before the game?
Yeah, well, I was pulling up, and I was wondering there was no bus. And I saw a couple of people getting off, like, trolleys and stuff. And I was like,
man.
So their bus broke down. So, actually, Coach Weber walked over to the game.
He walked.
A couple of them got rides with different school buses or whatnot.
Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah, that is.
And
That's
then,
a bad
and then
omen.
the game, yeah, and then the game exactly like that. Well, y'all played so well. It is so fun to see how together your team is, how unselfish your team is. When people ask me, you know, what's the best thing about this team, that to me is top of the list.
Well, I think definitely every coach wants your team to be unselfish and play together, and to just see the excitement, joy that they all have playing with one another. You don't get 23 assists like we did last night unless you enjoy making passes and seeing your teammates get open looks and good, better, best mentality. And the best thing is we have so many different weapons. Everyone has different nights, and you got to have that servant attitude, that sharing attitude. When it's your on night, people are going to get you the ball, and when someone else is on, it's your job to get them the ball.
And last night it was Davion Mitchell, and everybody did a good job getting him the ball.
Yeah, and Davion, it was great to see just all his hard work that's paid off this season as far as his consistency in his shooting and his confidence in shooting. But, you know, last night we made 17 threes. We had a couple guys on. Everybody was making shots.
Yeah, it wasn't just Davion. But it was a great example last night of he had the hot hand there, and, you know, everybody's getting him the ball. They're getting him the shots.
Most definitely, and that means people are setting great screens, people are finding them, and at the end of the day, too, we really did a great job getting stops where we could get into transition, and when you get into transition, everyone gets better looks.
You don't have games like that very often, especially in conference play. I think 22-2 to start the game, 44-9 midway through the first half. I mean, that's a big lead early.
Yeah, those are uncommon in the Big 12,
Yes.
and when you get them, you better enjoy them.
Yeah, 107 points, 107-59 was the final score. 107 points, the second most ever in a Baylor Big 12 game. You know which one was number one, right?
5 overtime.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, 116 to 110, a 5 overtime win over Texas A&M a few years ago. So this is 107 in regulation.
Yeah, and a more telling stat even than that, I think Coach Weber's only given up 100 points twice, both this year to us.
Yeah.
And he's coached a lot of games and fantastic coach. So when you do that, you're doing something well.
How about, I mean, the offense and the numbers are eye-popping from last night, but how about your defense? Not just last night, but the way y'all played defense all year.
Well, number one defense in the country, and that's hard to do when you have 356 teams or whatever the exact number is, and number 3 offense, so a lot of things clicking.
Good. How is that? That's the Kim Palm, efficiency.
Kim Palm analytics.
Yeah. How's that figured? What all goes into that?
I don't know, but when we're in the top, they're accurate, and that's a good thing, you know.
Right.
No, but most coaches use some form of analytics, and Ken Palm seems to be the most widely used.
Good. Your defense.
And that's points per possession.
Points per possession. All right.
Correct.
Your defense, very good. You guys are really, really good at taking charges. Davion is, I think, the best I've ever seen at taking charges. And that's kind of infectious, isn't it? I mean, he does it, and it kind of carries over to everybody else.
Most definitely. And, I mean, he's the top of our defense. So when he's getting after it, getting deflections, getting charges, it's inspiring everybody else. And, I mean, this week we had 3 players come out on the Naismith watch for all defensive player of the year, out of top 15, so that's pretty impressive. That's
really good. Jared and Davion and Mark Vital, so well done there.
Well represented.
Yeah, that is very good. How about Mark Vital? A week or 2 weeks ago, Fran Fraschilla kind of threw a jab at him, just saying, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" It doesn't seem like the same Mark Vital. Ever since then, man, he's been on fire.
Well, Mark is I tell you what, a lot of people have talked about Everyday John and the energy and excitement, enthusiasm he brings. And I tell you, Freddie and Mark both have done a great job in helping bring him along. And I think Mark is really responsible for a lot of that mentorship. And because of that, rightfully so, a lot of people have talked about John's energy. And I think Mark, after the last couple of weeks, knew that he needed we needed more from him from the standpoint if we're going to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And Mark's one of those guys that does what the team needs. So he's a pleaser, meaning he's a winner and he wants to do whatever it takes to win. And obviously we're a better team when he's out there doing his thing.
You got several of those guys, who do what you need on any given night. Jared Butler kind of leads the way there.
And Jared, perfect example as far as seems like the bigger the moment or when we need a bucket, especially the bigger the game, the better he plays.
Wow, great recognition for Jared. His week last week, NCAA National Player of the Week, Naismith Trophy National Player of the Week, Big 12 Player of the Week. Very deserving for the week.
Yeah, I think every week honor he got.
Yeah, I think so. He kind of cleaned up there. And isn't that great to have that honor? What was interesting, as well as you were playing this year as a team, that was the first Big 12 honor for anybody, or Big 12 Player of the Week, I guess, on the year.
Well, and hopefully we have many more, and then we call those team awards, team honors, because at the end of the day, if the team's not doing well, nobody's getting recognized.
How much and in what ways has Jared improved? I mean, he could have left for the NBA last year. You see it better than we do. What ways is he better this year?
Well, I think first he's being mentioned for the all-defensive list, and when he came in, I know he cared a little more about that offensive end than the defensive end. Not to say that he wasn't a good defensive player, but he's definitely worked hard to become better and be a great two-way player. The other thing is his efficiency across the board, and as far as assist-turnover ratio, taking care of the ball, his efficiency as far as shooting. And that's the great thing when you have a lot of different talented players. It should help everybody's numbers, and everyone should just be more efficient. You shouldn't have to take more tougher shots. You should have more easier shots. And at the end of the day, if everyone's efficient, that really makes for a good team. And Jared's improved his 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, assist turnover ratio, and has done a great job in just improving with his basketball IQ from scouting reports, knowing what teams are going to do, personnel's going to do, as has all our team, and especially year two playing predominantly man. I think we've gone to another level there.
Is he stronger? Is that just another year older? Just appears to be stronger?
Yeah, I think Charlie, our strength coach, does a phenomenal job with all our guys, and every year they're with them, bigger, stronger, more athletic, less body fat. And Jared's also, the older you get, usually the nutrition part comes in.
Yeah.
So they know what to order at Rudy's, what's the best for them. And again, at the end of the day, we call them pros. I mean, you got to be good in every area.
Yeah.
Not nutrition. You got to get sleep. You got to, and I mean that's what our guys have done, especially with COVID, sacrificing like they have to make sure that we're able to play, because there's a lot of different temptations or other things you can do when you're in college, and being in your apartment or dorm and in the practice gym, and being really careful when and where you go to eat to make sure that you have a chance to play.
Very good. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with more in just a moment. We've got our Academy Sports and Outdoors question of the week. We've got some questions from our audience here at Rudy's. First Place Foods Ask the Coach questions, so we'll have those when we come back. Coach Scott Drew is with us, coach of the undefeated and second-ranked Baylor Bears, Big 12 leading Baylor Bears, and we'll be back live from Rudy's right after this. And back with us live from Rudy's on this evening's Baylor Coaches Show. We appreciate Casie Maxwell, who was on with us earlier, talking horses. Now we're talking to the man with a lot of horsepower on his team. That is Coach Scott Drew, and we're glad you are with us this evening. Coach, we do each week our Academy Sports and Outdoors Question of the Week. It's brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. Here is this week's question.
Hey, Coach, how do you build a successful team culture?
Great question. So to start with, you have to have a great administration. If they don't give you the necessary tools and facilities and resources to be successful, you're not going to be successful. Then you have to have a great staff, and we've been blessed to have a great staff. Coach Tang's been with me for 18 years, and a lot of staff members have been there multiple years and do a phenomenal job. And then you got to have great players, and then what happens is that player leadership gets passed on, and from there it becomes a player-led program, and we've been able to get to that point. And because of that, freshmen come in, and basically the upperclassmen take them through what they need to do, how they need to do it, and that makes our job a lot easier.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's built on, year after year of the same culture also. I mean, it doesn't change from year to year, does it?
No, you have your same old boring habits, we call them.
Well, they're working, and it's very impressive. So that's our Academy Sports and Outdoors Question of the Week. Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. Coach, we've got some questions from the audience now. This is our First Place Foods Ask the Coach. First Place Foods, that's a darn good pickle. And our first question is from Steve Van Wagner. Steve is right over there. And very nice. Steve says, how's the family?
Appreciate you asking. Everybody is doing well. In fact, Mom and Dad got their vaccine today, so hopefully that'll give them an opportunity to come up and maybe catch a game. And then my family is enjoying the season thus far like I am.
Very good. Good question, Steve. Thanks for that. Speaking of your dad, you recently passed him in Division I wins. That's a nice milestone. I mean, the Drew family just continues building those wins.
Well, and been blessed to be able to be mentored by him.
Yeah, very good. All right, another question from Roy Evans. Roy is right over here. Roy and Ann. Roy says, do you have a special play for Jackson Moffitt to get his first bucket? That's a good question.
Yeah, because the ones we've been using haven't worked,
it
right?
Haven't worked yet.
so anyway, and you know what? Jackson's turned down a couple of shot opportunities to make the right basketball play and right basketball pass, and love him playing the right way. And I thought on that 2-on-1 fast break with him and Zach last night, I thought we were good there. But anyway, we're at some point he's going to get his opportunity, and it's going to go in. And I know he might just have to that play where we throw him that lob and he gets that spectacular dunk. That might have to be the one.
All right, very good. Well, we're pulling for him. Every time he gets in the game, we're pulling for him to get that
We're all
bucket.
pulling for him.
Yeah, I know that. What about his mullet? That's becoming a very prodigious mullet for Jackson.
Well, I can't grow hair like that, so I'm just jealous of whatever hairdo they got.
That's good. He said his mom's okay with it, his girlfriend's okay with it, so he's going to keep it for a while.
So he's good.
Very good. Mark Patterson got in the game last night also, and he did get a bucket. And then on the defensive end, how about that play by Mark? He was called for a foul, but it was really close to a block shot.
It was a great effort by him, and just shows how hard our guys compete. And as a coach, you can't ask for much more than 100% effort for every play.
How important are those guys, in practice, just attitude-wise? I mean, they're big, aren't they?
Well, and that's where you have 5 guys on the court, and that means the majority of your team is on the bench. And each and every day, if when you don't have someone there, well, it affects practice. And iron sharpens iron, and if you can't sharpen yourself, you're not getting as good. So the people that help us with scout team, the people we practice against each and every day, a big reason why we've been successful is because of that. And for the transfers that sit out, not only do they get better in that year out, but they really help us get better. So everyone on the team has an important role. This year, especially without crowds at some venues, the energy that you get from your bench has been vital and critical, and our guys do a great job.
I think about last year when Jonathan was sitting out, when Adam was sitting out, and those guys, were really good. Yeah. And Jordan. pardon you, and really good practice players, and then look where they are now. I mean, they benefited from that year.
Most definitely, and again, that's part of the player part of things in the leadership, because Davion and Maceo did a great job talking those guys through how it was for them, and before them, it was the guys that redshirted before that.
Very good. All right, we've got one more question here. There may be more later, but this one in my hand, you know who this is from?
The Don
Rogers. Exactly. Where's Don? Don is right over there.
Yeah,
all right.
the best sport administrator in the business.
Yeah, give Dawn a hand. She really is. Dawn, we appreciate you and everything you do. She's the sport administrator who oversees men's basketball.
So she says she's in charge of all the wins, and I take credit for all the losses.
That's
so that's the deal we worked out.
Right, very good, very good. Don, you're undefeated on the year. Let's keep it that way. This is a good question. She says, are you going to stay with the pullovers next year or go back to suits and ties?
Well, I can tell you.
I like that question.
That's a great question, because, it is so comfortable
yes,
what everyone's been wearing. And every coach has been talking about that. So, anyway, there were only a couple coaches ahead of the curve. I mean, Coach Huggins was one of those guys. And
he's on his own curve,
yeah,
actually.
But I do know we've all really enjoyed it. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I can promise you that comfort-wise, there's no doubt we prefer what we've been wearing over suits.
No question. Can I put a vote in from the radio
crew? You know how hard
crew?
it is to get mad and official when you got a suit and tie and the tie's choking you? I mean,
We don't need to go back. We don't need to go back. I mean, is there a chance you don't go back?
Oh, I do think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of coaches that, and I think that'll be I think it'll probably be more an all or nothing thing. I think
really, yeah. Kind of a consensus.
Yeah, it's hard if you have 8 coaches in the league wearing suit and tie, and then you're not. Unless you're Coach Huggins. You know?
I know his vote. I mean, he's not changing. And you guys are very very nicely dressed. I mean, you match every game. Is that Jay New, or how does that happen?
Yeah. Jay New, AD, those guys are responsible for making us look great, and they got because my fashion's a little outdated. Coach Tang's colorblind, so we rely on the youth, all right?
It's very stylish. I mean, you guys come out and everybody's wearing the same thing, pullover. I think that's great. I vote, Don, I vote that it continues, okay? And you too? Yeah, Don's for that. David K., yes, David K. is for that too. Let's see if we can keep that going. Great questions. Thanks very much. That's our First Place Foods Ask the Coach. First Place Foods, that's a darn good pickle. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more with the snappy dresser, Coach Scott Drew. We'll have that more when we come back live from Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue, and we'll be right back after this. And back with us, our final segment with Coach Scott Drew tonight, live from Rudy's on the Baylor Coaches Show. Again, a terrific season going for Baylor basketball, 15-0, 8-0 in Big 12 conference play. But, Coach, stepping out of Big 12 play here this Saturday. This Saturday is the Big 12 SEC Challenge. And you've always said you really like these challenge series.
Well, I think our players are really stepped up to the call and tried to represent the Big 12 in the best way possible and try to be dependable. And the challenge in itself is Big 12 has been very successful in a lot of challenges, which has helped us get more teams in the NCAA tournament, helped us with the seeding in the NCAA tournament. And for us, it's important when you represent the Big 12, you do well. And we're 6-1 against the SEC. Challenge and 10-2 overall in challenges. So really proud of how the guys have performed.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you put a lot of emphasis on it. Your guys know that these are important games, even though they're non-conference games.
Most definitely, and I tell you, even especially now in COVID times, anytime you can play, you got to take advantage of it and be excited. So, and it's a great day the way ESPN utilizes the whole day to showcase the SEC and the Big 12.
You really own the day on ESPN. I mean, games from 11 a.m., the last one tips at 7 p.m. that night.
Yeah, I like the later in the day ones. Those 11 a.m.s are too early wake-ups.
Which we did at Florida a couple of times. But your game at 3 o'clock against the Auburn Tigers. It is the Taylor Bryan Bowl. Whoever wins that game gets to keep Taylor Bryan in the athletic department. So it's a biggie. All right,
Sounds
it's a biggie.
good to me.
But there are some great matchups coming up on Saturday. You're focused on Auburn. Give us a quick scouting report on Auburn and their terrific point guard.
Well, Auburn's really a team that if you look in the beginning of the year, they were 0 for an SEC play, and then all of a sudden the point guard, Sharif Cooper, becomes eligible, and it just really transformed their team. He's such a dynamic player, somebody that will be up for top 2 or 3 freshmen in the country, and definitely possible one-and-done type player. And he really is a straw that stirs the drink and does a great job allowing all the other players to play in their natural positions. And with that, they got a lot of other players that really can play and a lot of length in the front court. 6th in the country in block shot percentage, and very fast in transition. So, again, this is to me, I think Alabama and Auburn are probably playing the best basketball in the SEC right now. So it's a completely different team the last 6 games with their point guard.
Who are they like? I mean, anybody in our league that you could compare them to?
We just played Oklahoma State, and with their athleticism, Texas, those 2 schools as far as athleticism and speed of play.
All right, was there any consideration, every school in our league has games that they've missed, been postponed, trying to make up. Was there any consideration of doing away with this challenge series day and using this as a makeup day?
If it was, it probably should have been discussed a lot sooner.
Well, sure.
So
yeah.
And I think the league has done a great job now rescheduling these games and trying to make sure we get them all in. And it'll be tough in February when you play 4 and 8 or 5 and 10. But at the same time, every player prefers to play games than practice. I can promise you that, and especially as long as we practice. So if you like basketball, there's going to be a lot of it, and it comes in a hurry in February. So knock on wood, hopefully we're able to get the whole conference season in, and then you get your conference tournament in the NCAA.
Yeah. You've got a makeup game against Texas down the road. You've got one already scheduled to make up with West Virginia. Mid-February, you play West Virginia on a Monday night in Morgantown, and then Thursday of the same week here in Waco.
Yeah, we could just jump on the same plane and fly.
That's true. Well, we appreciate you being here tonight. Congratulations on a fantastic start to the season. We're really at almost the midpoint of the season now, but congratulations on that, and keep things rolling.
Well, and we want to thank the fans. I know we're limited with 25%, but you've been phenomenal, and we appreciate you, and thanks for being safe. Thanks for wearing your mask, and see you at the Farrell.
All right, very good. Coach Scott Drew, coach of the undefeated Baylor Bears, leading the Big 12 Conference. Let's take a break. We'll be back, wrap things up on our Baylor Coaches Show right after this. And back to wrap things up on this evening's Baylor Coaches Show. We do appreciate Coach Casie Maxwell being here, Baylor equestrian coach, and Coach Scott Drew being with us, Baylor men's basketball coach. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and our scheduled guests in 2 weeks will be Mike McGraw, Baylor men's golf coach, and Steve Rodriguez, Baylor baseball coach. And that is 2 weeks from tonight, February 11th, for our next Baylor Coaches Show. Here's a look at the upcoming schedule in Baylor athletics. Women's tennis in action this weekend a couple of times. They'll host Abilene Christian at noon on Friday and SMU at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Track and field runs at the Texas Tech Invitational in Lubbock on Friday and Saturday. Of course, Baylor men's equestrian we talked about with Coach Maxwell. 11 a.m. start in College Station versus Texas A&M. Men's tennis versus Texas at noon in Austin, and this is a non-conference match. They'll meet later in the spring in conference. Men's basketball versus Auburn. We talked about that with Coach Drew. 3 p.m. tip-off Saturday in the Farrell Center, part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Then women's tennis versus SMU at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Men's tennis versus TCU at 4 o'clock on Sunday. That is a non-conference match as well. Women's basketball headed to Ames. They'll play Iowa State Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Thanks for being with us this evening. Again, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks to our hosts here at Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. Thanks for being with us on the Baylor Coaches Show, and good night from Rudy's.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.